Smith's Crack Cave Incident. On the morning of June 17, 2004, Steve Alburn and a group of friends set out for an adventure in Smith's Crack Cave in Idaho. They hiked through the forest to reach the cave entrance. Steve was a big man at 6 feet 2 inches and 250 pounds. As they went into the cave, Steve easily slid down a narrow slot into a lower passage. Gravity helped pull him through on the way down. They explored the cave for hours and finally decided to go back. The same narrow slot that had been easy to go down now trapped Steve by his chest. With gravity no longer helping, every inch upward felt like a battle. His large frame was wedged tight against the jagged rock walls. His chest was completely stuck, pinned tightly between the sharp walls of the cave. His lungs had little room to expand. His ribs felt like they were slowly being crushed. Each attempted movement only made the pressure worse. Sharp jolts of pain shot through his body. Steve's face was pressed painfully against the cold, jagged rock. His breathing became difficult. To make matters worse, Steve's legs were stuck in a horizontal position within the narrow passage. This left his body twisted in a way no human body should bend. His friends tried to pull him free, but gravity was no longer on his side. Every attempt only caused more pain. Hours passed and hope began to fade. The group finally called for help. Rescue crews arrived and tried repeatedly to free Steve, but nothing worked. His body was wedged too tightly. Finally, in a moment of desperation, someone suggested using vegetable shortening to grease him up. With no better options, rescuers grabbed coveralls and coated them with Crisco. The rescuers prepared themselves for the effort. They started to pull from above while his friend behind kept pushing. Steve, wearing the greasy suit, started to slide upward. Every movement sent sharp, searing pain through his ribs and spine, but he had to keep going. Slowly, painfully, the grease began to do its job. Inch by inch, the walls began to release their grip on his body. Steve's arms were grabbed by those pulling from above. With each tug, he screamed in pain as the rough stone scraped against his skin. Steve's body finally started to come free completely. After nearly 10 hours of pain, Steve emerged from the cave. He was battered, bruised, and shaken, but alive. Lake McDonald Cave Incident. On November 1st, 2020, a diving accident happened at Lake McDonald in Glacier National Park. Linnea Mills was part of a group of divers that included instructor Debbie Snow, trainee Bob Gentry, and a 14-year-old known as E.G. They were set to dive into Lake McDonald to practice high-altitude and cold water diving skills. Linnea had bought a second-hand dry suit. A dry suit is essential gear meant to keep divers warm by trapping air between the body and cold water. Unfortunately, her suit was missing a crucial part, the inflator hose. Without it, Linnea wouldn't be able to add air to her suit as she went down. This would cause the suit to squeeze tightly due to water pressure. Neither Linnea nor her instructors realized the missing equipment during pre-dive checks. The instructors skipped proper gear checks and a pre-dive briefing. Linnea was also carrying 44 pounds of lead weights in her dry suit and buoyancy control device pockets. When they entered the water, Linnea began struggling almost immediately. The cold water squeezed the air out of her suit, making it difficult to move and breathe. As the group went deeper, the situation got worse. She couldn't control her buoyancy properly. The pressure of the water made it even harder for her to breathe. At one point, she signaled for help, but her instructor didn't notice. A fellow diver, Bob Gentry, saw her sinking out of control. Gentry tried to catch up to her, reaching her at a depth of 26 meters. He could see she was in severe trouble. In the struggle, she lost her regulator, her main source of air. Gentry tried to share his air with her, but they were running out fast. At a depth of 32 meters, Gentry faced a life or death decision. He had to abandon his efforts and return to the surface or risk dying himself. Gentry made a rapid ascent, surfacing in less than a minute. This was a dangerous move that put him at risk for decompression sickness. Meanwhile, at the surface, Snow and Liston were still unaware of the life-threatening situation below. When Gentry finally emerged, he frantically alerted Snow to the emergency, but by this time, the fading light and cold temperatures made the search even more difficult. Eventually, Linnea's lifeless body was found at a depth of 39 meters. After her death, Linnea's family filed a $12 million negligence lawsuit. The lawsuit was against the dive school, its instructors, and PADI Worldwide. Sweet Potato Cave Incident. In Kentucky, a group of scouts gathered for a caving expedition at Sweet Potato Cave. Among the scouts was 14-year-old Jesse Gott. The scouts were equipped with helmets and headlamps. Together, the group made their way into the cave. All seemed well until the group came across a narrow crevice. The crevice looked interesting to Jesse. It looked like a tight squeeze, but he was determined to explore it. Ignoring the cautious warnings, Jesse slipped into the crevice. He hoped to find something extraordinary on the other side. However, the thrill quickly turned to dread when he realized he was stuck. Jesse was wedged tight up to his chest with no way to move his body out. Jesse had never been in a situation where his body wouldn't do what he wanted. Andrew Duncan, one of the scout leaders, quickly looked at the situation. The scouts were now stunned into silence. One by one, they gathered around Jesse, saying words of encouragement. With With each minute that passed, the situation became harder to ignore. His chest felt tight, not just from the physical pressure, but from fear. His fingers, numb from the cold, twitched without his control. Every second felt like a struggle. His body temperature was dropping. He was getting hypothermia. This made things worse. While Andrew and 2 other scouts stayed with Jesse, one scout ran back to the cave entrance to get help. The call for help reached the local firefighters and rescue squad. They arrived at the scene with specialized tools and determination to free the young scout. They knew they had to act quickly. Every minute mattered. Once inside the cave, the rescuers approached the narrow crevice where Jesse was trapped. They realized that Jesse needed treatment for his injuries and also for hypothermia. Immediately, they wrapped blankets and heating pads around him. Using shovels and crowbars, they began to make the opening bigger. After hours of hard work, the rescuers finally made progress. The opening was widened enough for Jesse to be pulled free. With everyone working together, they moved him out of the crack around 3 p.m. Jesse was finally free. Once out, he was taken to a local hospital for evaluation. The medical team quickly checked his condition. Thankfully, Jesse's ordeal had only resulted in mild hypothermia. Sotano Cave Incident. On July 10, 2005, 5 friends went camping in San Luis Potosí, Mexico. Miguel was the leader of the group. The other friends were Carlos, Alejandro, Alio, and Daniel. None of them had ever been in a cave before. They did not bring any proper caving equipment. They had no helmets and no good flashlights. What they did bring was lots of beer, tequila, and a speaker for music. They wanted to have an underground party inside the Sotano cave. They entered the cave in the afternoon. The friends started drinking beer right away. That night, there was a party inside the cave. The 5 friends drank a lot of alcohol at the party. They went deeper into the cave than they were supposed to. They ignored the "do not enter" signs. Around midnight, it started raining very hard. Miguel wanted to go back to their campsite to get more beer. His friends were worried because Miguel had drunk too much alcohol. Alejandro decided to go with Miguel to help him. Miguel walked ahead and Alejandro followed behind him. The rain was getting harder and the ground was very slippery. Miguel got confused and walked off the safe path. He could not see where he was going in the dark. Miguel thought he saw solid ground ahead. He stepped forward confidently, but there was no ground there. Only a deep hole. Miguel fell into the pit. Miguel screamed as he fell down the deep pit. He fell 79 feet, then slid down a slope, then fell another 62 feet. Miguel hit the rocks very hard and died instantly. Alejandro called out, but got no answer. He was very scared and ran back to the party. He told others what happened. Carlos called the police. Alio and Daniel ran out to look for Miguel. The rescue team arrived at dawn when the rain stopped. The 4 friends showed the rescuers where Miguel had fallen. The rescuers had proper safety equipment and ropes. They went down into the deep cave safely. At the bottom, they found Miguel's body. Miguel had died from hitting his head on the rocks. The rescuers brought Miguel's body back up. After this accident, the authorities put up warning signs. They banned underground parties in the caves. Vancouver Cave Incident. In 2010, 3 high school students decided to explore a cave in Vancouver. Their names were Alex, Rachel, and Jack. They had heard about a beautiful chamber inside the cave that sparkled in the light. Alex was the most experienced caver of the 3. Jack had never been in a cave before. This was Jack's first caving adventure. The 3 friends put on their headlamps and entered the cave. They crawled through narrow passages that were easy to navigate. The air smelled like damp earth and they could hear water dripping. The cave floor was muddy in some places. Alex knew the cave layout better than his friends. He usually led the way while Rachel and Jack followed. They climbed up a steep slope to reach a narrow spot. This narrow spot was called the squeeze penetration. From there, the cave split into 2 paths. One path led to a big room. The other path was even smaller and led to unknown areas. Alex told his friends to be careful because the passage was very tight. Alex should have gone first since he was the most experienced, but for some reason, he decided to go last. Rachel was small and slim, so she went first. She made it through the tight passage easily. Jack went second. He had to breathe hard to squeeze through, but he made it. Alex was the tallest at over 6 feet tall. He followed behind Rachel and Jack. Rachel and Jack kept moving toward the chamber. They thought Alex was right behind them. Alex tried to squeeze through the narrow passage. As it got tighter, Alex started to panic. In his confusion, Alex took the wrong path. He went into the passage that led to unknown territory. This passage was even narrower than the other one. Alex pushed forward but got completely stuck. He could not move forward or backward. The cave walls pressed against his body from all sides. Rachel and Jack reached the beautiful, sparkling chamber. They were amazed by what they saw. At first, they did not notice that Alex was missing. When they turned to leave, they realized Alex was not with them. Rachel's heart sank when she realized Alex was gone. She quickly went back to look for him. Jack was very scared because this was his first time caving. As they crawled back, they could hear Alex calling for help. They found Alex stuck in the wrong passage. Rachel held Alex's legs and tried to comfort him. Rachel told Jack to go get help. Jack ran through the cave as fast as he could. The rescue team arrived after a few hours. They looked at the situation and started working to free Alex. They used drills, hooks, and ropes to try to pull him out. Alex was getting weaker as time passed. He had been stuck for many hours. It was hard for him to breathe in the tight space. The air quality was poor in that part of the cave. After 4 hours of rescue work, the team finally freed Alex. The rescue team carried Alex out of the cave quickly, but Alex was too weak and did not survive. Hermit's Cave Incident. On April 5, 1999, 3 friends went camping near Hermit's Cave in Oklahoma. Robert Kennedy was 21 years old and from Mogi, Oklahoma. His stepbrother Richard Steeler Jr. was with him. Their friend Ben Keegley from Tulsa was also supposed to come. Robert had heard rumors about secret side passages. People said these passages led to hidden parts of the cave. Robert had never been caving before. They brought just one flashlight and no helmets. Ben had to work early the next day, so he could not come. The safe rule for caving is to always have 3 people. If one person gets in trouble, another stays while the third gets help. But Robert and Richard decided to go anyway. They entered the wide cave entrance easily. They crawled through the main passage. The cave was slippery, damp, and cold. On their way back, Robert saw one of the side passages. This passage was about 150 feet long. It had many twists and turns that were hard to navigate. Robert reached a dangerous section called the Keyhole Formation. Robert squeezed through the keyhole head first. But Robert did not know that going head first was wrong. Experts always say to go feet first in unknown caves. This way you can back out if there is trouble. Robert did not know the passage ahead got much narrower. He tried to squeeze through by breathing out all his air. Robert realized he could not go forward, but his body was already stuck tight between the rocks. Gravity was pulling him down toward the muddy floor. His face was pointing down toward the wet mud. Robert started to panic and called for Richard's help. Richard came to help but could not reach Robert. Richard saw that Robert was stuck very badly. The only thing Richard could do was go get help. After about an hour, 3 rescue workers came to the cave. The rescue was very difficult for several reasons. Only one rescuer could reach Robert at a time. The air quality was poor deep in the cave. The rescuers tried to make the keyhole bigger with hand tools. Finally, a rescuer reached Robert's feet. Robert was not responding. The rescuers tried to pull Robert out by his feet, but they could not get enough leverage to pull him. The only choice was to dig around Robert's body. It took over an hour to finally move Robert's body. They brought him back to the cave entrance. Paramedics were waiting to help Robert, but it was too late. Robert had died.